The Tale of the Flopsy Bunnies by Beatrix Potter. It is said that the effect of eating too much lettuce is soporific. I've never felt sleepy after eating lettuce, but then I'm not a rabbit. There certainly had a very soporific effect upon the Flopsy Bunnies. When Benjamin Bunny grew up, he married his cousin Flopsy. They had a large family, and they were very improvident and cheerful. I do not remember the separate names of the children. They were generally called the Flopsy Bunnies, as there were not always quite enough to eat. Benjamin used to borrow cabbage from the Flopsy's brother, Peter Rabbit, who kept a nursery garden. Sometimes Peter Rabbit had no cabbage to spare. When this happened, the Flopsy Bunnies went across the field to a rubbish heap in the ditch outside Mr. McGregor's garden. Mr. McGregor's rubbish heap was a mixture. There were jam pots and paper bags and mountains of chopped grass from the mowing machine, which always tasted oily, and some rotten vegetables marrow and an old boot or two. One day, oh joy! There were a quantity of overgrown lettuce which had shot into the flour. The Flopsy Bunnies simply stuffed lettuce. By degrees, one after the other, they were overcome with slumber and lay down on the mowed grass. Benjamin was not so much overcome as his children. Before going to sleep, he was sufficiently wide awake to put a paper bag over his head to keep off the flies. The little Flopsy Bunny slept delightfully in the warm sun. From the lawn beyond the garden came the distant clackety sound of the mowing machine. The blue bottles buzzed about the wall, and a little old mouse picked up over the rubbish among the jam pots. She rustled across the paper bag and awakened Benjamin Bunny. The mouse apologized profusely and said that she knew Peter Rabbit. While she and Benjamin were talking, close under the wall, they heard a heavy tread above their heads, and then suddenly Mr. McGregor emptied out a sack full of lawn mowing right upon top of the sleeping Flopsy Bunnies. Benjamin shrank under his paper bag. The mouse hid in a jam pot. The little rabbits smiled sweetly in their sleep under the shower of grass. They did not awake because the lettuce had been so soporific. They dreamt that their mother Flopsy was tucking them in a hay bed. Mr. McGregor looked down after emptying his sack. He saw some funny little brown tips of ears sticking out through the lawn mowings. He stared at them for some time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, said he as he dropped them into his sack. The Flopsy Bunnies dreamt that their mother was turning them over in bed. They stirred a little in their sleep, but they still did not wake up. Mr. McGregor tied up the sack and left it on the wall. He went to put away the mowing machine. While he was gone, Mrs. Flopsy Bunny, who had remained at home, came across the field. She looked suspiciously at the sack and wondered, "Where is everybody?" Then the mouse came out of her jam pot, and Benjamin took the paper bag off his head, and they told the doleful tale. Benjamin and Flopsy were in despair. They could not undo the string, but the mouse was a resourceful person. She nibbled at a hole at the bottom corner of the sack. The little rabbits were pulled out and pinched to wake them. Their parents stuffed the empty sack with 3 rotten vegetable marrows and an old blackish brush, 2 decayed turnips. Then they all hid under a bush and watched for Mr. McGregor. Mr. McGregor came back and picked up the sack and carried it off. He carried it hanging down as if it were rather heavy. The Flopsy Bunnies followed a safe distance. They watched him go into the house. Mr. McGregor threw down the sack on the stone floor in a way that would have been extremely painful to the Flopsy Bunnies if they had happened to have been inside it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits, said Mr. McGregor. Huh? What's that? Where have they been spoiling now? Inquired Mr. McGregor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little fat rabbits? In the sack? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, replied Mr. McGregor. The youngest Flopsy Bunny got upon the window sill. Mrs. McGregor took hold of the sack and felt it. She said she could feel 6, but they must be old rabbits because they were so hard and in different shapes. Not fit to eat, but the skins will do fine to line my old cloak. Line your own cloak, shouted Mr. McGregor. I shall sell them and buy myself tobacco. Mrs. McGregor untied the sack and put her hand inside. When she felt the vegetable, she became very angry. She said that Mr. McGregor had done it on purpose. And Mr. McGregor was very angry too. So Mr. McGregor did not get his tobacco, and Mrs. McGregor did not get her rabbit skins. But the next Christmas, the mouse got a present of enough rabbit wool to make herself a cloak, a hood, and a handsome muff and a pair of warm mittens. The end.